Welcome to the Aaron Harber Show. This is Your Decision 2018, and we're doing part two of our special two-part series on our ballot review. Joining me today, again, Dick Wadhams, the campaign manager extraordinaire for Republicans and a consultant currently. Well, you're involved in campaigns right now, aren't you?
Yes.
Former chairman of the, of course, Colorado Republican Party. Dick, great having you on again.
Nice to be here.
And the CEO of Novitas, Michelle Ling, is here to join us, also a Republican operative. You've been involved in a number of campaigns, and you were the former vice chair of the Democratic Party, or the Republican Party in Denver, I believe.
I was. We've been doing a lot more ballot initiatives than candidates lately, but yes.
Yeah, well, see, people in political consulting move to ballot issues because it's much better money and you don't have a candidate.
That is true. You usually don't get 2 o'clock in the morning phone calls.
And Marie Logsdon in Governor Hickenlooper's office, the Chief of Strategy and Communications. Marie, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And also making predictions today, Alan Salazar, the Chief of Staff for Mayor Michael Hancock, and of course, a person who's been involved at the highest level of campaigns for everything from dog catcher to president. That and more at the top end. Okay, we did in part one. We covered a lot of candidates and one amendment. Let's go to an all amendment and proposition show today, and let's start with Amendment X, and that is. Do you all know what Amendment X is? Who knows what Amendment X is? Okay, any of you? See this? See, and you're going to vote on this, and you're my expert panel. Okay, Amendment X is to change the definition of industrial hemp.
Yeah.
So instead of being defined in the Colorado Constitution, it can be redefined or amended or improved or whatever on a statutory basis. So it requires a constitutional amendment to change anything in the Constitution, since the definition of hemp was created when we legalized marijuana. We are stuck with it in the Constitution. So does anyone have, Marie, do you have an opinion on whether or not we should support this measure?
Sure. I think we should, because ag is a huge part of our economy. Industrial hemp is an area of revenue that could benefit Colorado and farmers. Having a better and more flexible definition of our agricultural market is important. Having it in the Constitution doesn't make any sense. Statutory does.
We have a lot of things in our Constitution that don't make sense. Okay, so it's interesting because there are some people who are opposed to the amendment who believe that by having it defined in the Constitution creates some level of protection for those in the business of dealing with industrial hemp. Other people feel that because that field changes so rapidly, it really makes more sense to have the flexibility to adapt as the years go by. Any predictions on whether it passes? All right, Wadhams, is it going to pass or not?
I have not the foggiest idea, nor do I know how I'm going to vote. I learn more from you right now.
I've always said this is an educational show. So any other, you get last word, Alan, on industrial hemp.
Don't think a lot about it, but I think Marie makes a strong case, and I actually voted for it. So
you already did?
I'm already there, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, one vote. We know it's got 2 votes. We know it's got 2 votes. Okay, our next one is Amendment Y. And Amendment Y and Z basically change, Y changes, I guess, redistricting for congressional districts, and Z changes reapportionment for the 35 Colorado State Senate districts and the 65 Colorado State House districts. Are these proposals a good idea or not? Michelle, I'm going to let you elucidate on the subject.
So, I think what's interesting is the case for this is to try to take politics out of what's inherently a really political process. I think no matter what we do, we're going to be disappointed because there's still going to be politics in it. I was, wholeheartedly voting for this until I saw ads from Jennifer Lawrence, who I'd love to drink with. I probably won't take political advice from her.
I'd like to drink with her too.
I bet you would. And Crisanta Duran, who I don't have much in common with politically, and Eric Holder, again, not much in common with politically. So I think it'll pass, but there's been a backlash amongst Republicans who are concerned about some of the people lining up behind it. I think it'll pass. I'll probably vote for it.
Okay, so if a Democrat's for it, you're automatically against it?
No. I have to read
I'm
it.
just teasing.
I'm voting for it probably, but it gave me pause.
All right, Dick, what's your take on it?
I endorse both of them, but you know what? My philosophy is it can't be any worse than what we have right now. And that's honestly how I feel.
Right.
I have no illusions, or delusions, I should say, that it's going to be a lot better, but that's how I feel about it.
Marie?
It was a collaborative process going in. I think everybody's a little annoyed and everybody's a little happy about it, which I think is this Colorado sweet spot. I think it'll pass, and I think it's better than the system we have now.
I hope so.
What did you think of Arnold Schwarzenegger and his terminate gerrymandering? Did that?
I haven't seen that. I don't know. They're targeting me wrong.
Yeah, he was here on Saturday stumping for this measure. And that's been one of his.
Or the Governator or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So Schwarzenegger came in, did a joint event with Governor Hickenlooper, a Republican governor, former governor, and a current Democratic governor, soon to be a former Democratic governor as well. So, Alan, do you think it's going to pass?
I do, and I agree that it was a bipartisan effort. I think the campaign advertising maybe missed the boat by not emphasizing that enough for voters who just saw Democrats talking about it. Ironically, and I did vote for it, I think it's a step in the right direction, Democrats may have some buyer's remorse, particularly if Jared Polis is elected governor, and I think he will be. And I think there's a better than even shot at taking both houses of the legislature. So Democrats may feel like they gave up the game on redistricting.
Okay, because you're saying that because the way it's configured right now, the commissions are appointed, the governor gets appointments, the leadership in the House and Senate get appointments, the Supreme Court Chief Justice gets to make, Colorado Justice gets to make appointments. And so if Democrats were to control the House, the Senate, and the governor's mansion,
They'd control the maps.
It'd be a Democratic map.
Right.
That's true.
And so you're saying here you have J. Law and all these Democrats helping the Republicans.
I think Democrats, by and large, look to the future, and we're going to self-sacrifice a little bit and
So we
give
wanna
up
do
some
the right
power
thing.
to do the right thing.
Thanks for taking one for the team.
I know I get a rise out of Dick on that one.
So, Dick, are Democrats typically so magnanimous?
Yes, they are. My experience is they all are, especially Alan.
Okay, you guys are good at lying.
You know, I agree with Michelle, though. When I saw Jennifer Lawrence, of all people, in fact, all these celebrities, I mean, even a conservative celebrity, I don't care what they think. Right. Frankly, the Crisanta Duran ad actually helped me think this is a bipartisan thing, and so I kind of like that. But Schwarzenegger, maybe, because I know he was at least involved in this issue in California, right. So I think he had some credibility. But actors and actresses?
All right, well, she's been in outer space.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I just don't think Coloradans care about celebrity endorsements on that level. I think we're pretty down to earth people. I think we care more about our neighbor than our.
All right, we only have less than a minute left in this segment, but let's talk quickly about how important do you think? Just give me a quick one-sentence take for Colorado voters. How important are endorsements in general? Do you think?
Depends on who the endorser is. I think celebrity endorsements still get attention, and I think one of the ways that you break through the clutter of TV ads is to have a celebrity endorser or a big endorsement.
And I don't mean just
so I don't
celebrity.
Discount them. I think I agree. Generally, Colorado voters are smart enough to look past that. But as a tactic to get attention, I think it will continue to be a political tactic we use.
Yeah, I think it's an important part of the process in the package to help people discern, especially with a ballot that's 6 pages long. I think it does matter.
Oh, I don't think it matters. I think it's, as Marie said, I think it's a great part of a package, but I think it has to be balanced with real stories. I'm kind of a big fan of real people.
Last comment.
I don't think it's that big a deal. In terms of Hollywood celebrities, I don't think it affects
How about other people? When
broadly,
the
chamber, whoever.
Oh, I think a president, whoever it is, can have an impact one way or another. I mean, honestly.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with our panel in just a moment.
For information on how to help promote civil and mutually respectful discourse and support expansion of the distribution of our programs, please email info@harbertv.com.
The Rexall Broadcaster of the Year Award recognizes an individual who, through leadership, skill, and dedication, is advancing the broadcast industry in our state and our nation. Tonight, we honor Aaron Harber. Aaron has worked extensively in the media as a host, producer, political and economic commentator, and columnist. Today, the Aaron Harber Show is the focus of his media involvement. Aaron, it is a privilege to present you with the Rex Howe Broadcaster of the Year Award. Congratulations.
Just make journalism great again.
The Aaron Harber Show may be viewed 24/7 at no charge from any location in the world at harbortv.com.
Welcome back to the show. This is part 2 of our special 2-part series on the Colorado ballot. So we also have Amendment A, eliminating slavery in the Constitution in terms of not allowing people to become slaves, or have indentured servitude as well. Well, what's your take on this one, Alan?
This is an anachronism that we need to take out of the Constitution, and just like Confederate statues, this needs to come out of the Constitution. I know there are legal consequences and people can over-lawyer it, but this has no business being in the Colorado Constitution.
All right, so the concept is you can't use slavery or indentured servitude as a punishment. That's what this is about. But Marie, I'd be kind of interested in your take on it, in that I know if you're in prison, based on personal experience, or jail, that often you do work where you're paid pennies on the dollar. Would this eliminate that kind of prison work opportunity?
Those questions have been raised about whether or not those work programs would be impacted, and I think, as Alan said, it's sort of an obvious choice. We need to take it out of the Constitution, and the rest of it can be dealt with statutory or legally.
All right, I'm not going to let you two talk about this at all. I'm going to jump to Amendment 73 and let you have the first word on that. So Amendment 73 is a big deal. This is new funding for public schools. I think the estimate is it would bring in something like $1.6 billion or some staggering amount to schools. Of course, we spend billions of dollars a year on schools now. What's your take on Amendment 73? Which would have a number of consequences on our tax structure. Michelle, why don't you start?
Sure. This is actually very similar to, I think, Amendment 66, which went down fairly handily a couple years ago. I think the really big concern for me is that the proponents of this claim that there's no impact on, a huge portion of the population. That might not be true in 5 years. There's no escalation at all for or inflation. So for a two-party household, you're talking about, the average income right now I think is in the 60s, like 63 maybe. Sarah, I don't know, or Marie, sorry, maybe you can answer that. But
Marie, you're supposed to know everything.
yeah, do you know everything about the state? But in a few years, maybe the average income will be 75,000. All of a sudden, now that encompasses a whole tier of Coloradans.
Okay, so just to be clear, because what you're saying is if you have two wage earners whose combined income is 150,000, that triggers the higher rate.
It does. And so the concern is that this starts affecting a lot more families as wages are affected by inflation. The other issue is there's a property tax hike. And finally, the third issue is that
of course, no one's talking about the property tax hike. It's really a property tax freeze, but we've been in the process for many years of the rate going down. This would freeze the rate, so which sounds good, freeze the tax rate, but in reality, what it means is it can't continue to go down.
That's right. And so, and I think the other issue is we don't actually know where the money is going. It says it's for education, but it's kind of a blank check.
All right.
It is a blank check, and Aaron, I think there's one issue that I think Walker Stapleton has done an outstanding job on, and that's the study he did about the dramatic increase of administrators and the relatively flat increase in students and teachers during the same time. And I think that revealed, not every school district, but the vast majority of them, and some of them really bad increases in administrators. I think that alone tells me I'm going to vote no on this thing. I don't like this tax increase anyway. But I think that these school districts have been irresponsible in these administrators. Until we see more accountability from school districts, I'm a no. And accountability, I think, is a question across the board for this thing. We're giving a boatload of money, raising taxes on, I think, everyone eventually. I think Michelle's right. And I think this is going to be rejected by the voters.
All right. So far, some of the polling numbers are pretty positive. Alan, what's your take?
Well, I think the issue is whether voters are okay with a tax increase for education. And if you look at the future of the state and where we compare to other states in terms of education funding, I think we see that there's a challenge for Colorado. We should be doing better. And I think it's up to the voters, obviously. I think it's going to be a hard sell. But because of Tabor and the constitutional provisions that we have, the only way we can do this is to go to the voters and say, hey, will you invest more money in schools? And I think the attitude of voters right now is inclined to that direction.
You know, one of the really interesting things is if you read the ballot title as it is in the ballot language on your ballots when you vote, it's actually, there's a huge mistake because it talks about a percentage increase in the Colorado flat tax, but they really mean how many points it goes up. And if you apply it literally, it's a very small increase in tax. For the 150,000 people, it's an increase of only 1/3 of 1%. But it actually, that isn't what they're asking for. They're asking for that amount to be added onto. And same with, we have a flat tax of 4.63% in Colorado. This really blows apart the flat tax. And they asked for 1.37% increase at the top rate. Well, that's not really true. I think the actual percentage increase, it's adding 1.37 or whatever is points to the 4.63 or whatever. Anyway, I think the top rate ends up going to something like almost 8.25% from 4.63%, which is a 78% increase.
For those who make over $500,000.
Yeah, if you're making $500,000, you have to make $500,000 or more. I don't think anybody knows this, and I assume this is going to get litigated. This is going to be a fascinating legal case because if judges follow the letter of this measure, if they follow exactly what it says verbatim, it's going to get struck down in terms of what the proponents want. So you tell me, am I wrong about it? You're a lawyer.
I am a lawyer, but I also don't practice in that area, so I want to be careful what I say.
Well, I do. You can then, and I'm not a lawyer.
Aaron, the issue is whether voters are comfortable raising taxes. It's really focused on people with higher incomes. I admit that there are, ratcheting up effects with all that, but it's a question voters ought to be able to answer yes to, and I think given this climate, people probably are more inclined to spend some money for education.
I think that's true, and also I think there's almost unanimity, whether you're Democrat or Republican, unaffiliated, that we need to pay our teachers more. We need to do a better job. How do we do a better job in education? Does spending money automatically mean we get better results? There are a lot of questions.
Well, that's the trouble, Aaron. I mean, I happen to concur that teachers need to be paid more. There is nothing in this thing that says that's going to happen. I can see a whole bunch of administrators being added to the layer of bureaucracy in these school districts that will suck the life out of those teacher salaries. But no, it's a blank check, and I don't think there's any accountability for it, and I think teachers will be the losers when it really comes down to it in this.
All right, I don't think they'll be the losers. I think the teachers will win, but maybe administrators win bigger.
Well, that's...
Well, I think it's interesting arguing against the local control piece of it, because that was part of what they were trying to court independence around, was offering flexibility to local districts to decide how to spend the money.
Right, and we have like 178 school districts in Colorado, or some incredible number. So I think your local control argument that I've heard is, hey, your local school district gets to decide where the money goes today. And they still get to decide. So don't you have confidence, Dick, in your local school district?
I do, but I still don't think I think the teachers are going to get screwed. I do.
They get screwed all the time.
That's my philosophy on this.
All right, fair enough. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with our panel in just a moment.
For information on how to help promote civil and mutually respectful discourse and support expansion of the distribution of our programs, please email info@harbertv.com.
I'm Aaron Harber, host of The Aaron Harber Show. You can follow the show on Twitter for instant notification of new episodes, live event invitations, outtakes, and behind-the-scene photos. And tweet us your topic and guest suggestions today. I'm Aaron Harber, host of The Aaron Harber Show. I very much would like to hear from you about the program, so please send me an email with your thoughts. You can suggest what topics I should cover, what guests I should invite to be on the show, or even what specific questions you would like me to ask. This is your program, so send your suggestions to aaron@harbortv.com. I promise to personally read every one, so email me today. And most of all, thanks for watching.
Join me and watch The Aaron Harber Show.
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 I'm Reverend Jesse Jackson. Watch The Aaron Harber Show and keep hope alive.
The Aaron Harber Show may be viewed 24/7 at no charge from any location in the world at harbortv.com.
Welcome back to the show. This is our final segment in part 2 of our special 2-part series on the Colorado ballot, so make sure you watch part 1 as well. Okay, it's the lightning round. Amendment 74, just compensation for property takings. Quick take on it, Alan.
Sounds good. Terrible idea. Talk about tax increases. This will be a windfall for lawyers and will cost city taxpayers and town taxpayers zillions of dollars trying to litigate.
All right, zillions. That's a lot of money.
Over time.
That is a heck of an estimate. Michelle.
You know, I like the idea. I think that the threshold right now is too high. Right now in Colorado, what is it? You only get compensated if your value's been diminished 90%. That's way too high. This might not be the right answer, but I think that there is an answer out there. So I don't know if it'll pass. I think probably not.
Does it pass, Dick?
No, I don't think it does, actually.
All right, Amendment 75. This is all right, Amendment 75, an expansion of campaign contributions if your opponent spends $1 million or more or somehow directs $1 million to some kind of committee. Does this make sense, Marie?
I mean, sure, it's a small step in the right direction. It's woefully inadequate to address money in politics, and in fact asks and invites more money to come into politics as part of the solution. So it's imperfect, but I'll probably vote for it anyway.
All right, Dick, your comment.
There is only one fundamental campaign finance reform that makes sense and that will really address the problem. Get rid of all these stupid laws, all the requirements for limits, and just make it any amount of money at any time from any entity, full and immediate disclosure. Let the public decide.
All right, fair enough. 109, fix our damn roads. So this is a proposal to require the state to bond $3.5 billion to repair roads. Alan, what's your take on it?
It won't fix our damn roads. It will just put a big credit card in front of people. It cuts out funding that the state needs to do for other priorities. The better approach is 110. 109 is a fool's errand if you want to get transportation and traffic fixed.
All right, Michelle, your take on 109.
I kind of like it. I know we're going to differ on this, but I think that transportation is one area that the state legislature hasn't prioritized enough, and I think that forcing their hand is not the worst idea in the world.
All right, 110. Let's talk about 110, which is Let's Go Colorado. I'm not sure where we're going, but this is to increase the sales tax actually by about almost 2/3 of a point, 0.62. Is this a good idea? It certainly would generate the kind of revenue on the order of, I would guess, 15 to 20 billion to make up for the backlog and maintenance and needed expansion in the entire state. Good idea, bad idea?
It's going to go down. It's a bad idea. Big slush fund for local governments that no accountability. Once again, we're using state money for local governments. Local governments can decide what they want to do with their local roads. But more importantly, I had the same arguments thrown at Governor Owens and me when we did the trans program back in 1999, that it was a blank check, that it put the state in debt. It was a magnificent program that did I-25, 26 other projects. 109 is a great proposal, and it almost mirrors perfectly what Governor Owens did 20 years ago, which was the last time we did a real transportation program.
That was referendum C you're
That
talking
was referendum A back in 1999.
Oh, an A, okay.
Yeah, 1999.
Oh, 99, you're going way back. Okay. Marie, your take on 110.
110, I think, helps fill the 25-year flat tire we've been rolling on. I mean, I think the idea that 109 is going to make a big impact is flawed. It pulls money out of 267, which we just passed, and doesn't add enough, and then it also doesn't tell you how it's going to be paid for. There's no revenue stream associated with it. So 110, I think, does state highways, it does local, multimodal, has everything in the package. I'm not sure either of them will pass. I think 110 they both have a shot. I think the next couple weeks matter, and it's about voter education. I think the sexier name on Fix Our Damn Roads is problematic for 110, although I think it's an inaccurate name for the initiative.
All right. Is it going to pass or not, Alan?
Be tough. Kudos to Kelly Brough in the chamber for putting their shoulder to the wheel on this. I disagree with Dick, and I know a little bit about this working for the mayor. About 25% of Denver's population during the day are people who drive into Denver to work. You can't rely only on Denver voters to fix everything that's happening in Denver. So we need the resources. We have about $1 billion worth of work that needs to be done in Denver on top of what the voters have already approved. 110 helps us get there. 109 will not.
And I
All right, I'm gonna interrupt you, Dick, because we're running out of
There's so
time.
much more to
Let's
say.
do 112. We got to do 112. Okay, we've never seen so much money. Have we ever seen this much money spent on any kind of race, any kind of ballot issue, any type of contest? You're looking at what, $40 million for those opposing 112? Is that Dick, a reasonable estimate?
Sure it is, yeah. And you know what? I think this would be the Democratic Party's worst nightmare to have this pass, because I think there will be immediate economic consequences starting the day after the election as oil companies start pulling back, shutting down operations. That will reverberate throughout the economy. And we do have a Democratic legislature, Alan. I think that they're going to be faced with the prospect, if not this session, but in 2020, of repealing this thing if it passes.
Michelle, are you surprised at how close this appears to be? I mean, you have one side spending $40 million in opposition to the measure. You have the other side with, they're not even on television. I am surprised that 112 even has a chance of passing.
I think for people it sounds good that they look at the ballot, it says 2,500-foot setback. They don't know that that's half a mile. They don't realize that it's spread out. That it creates this huge red map of things where we can't drill. 85% of land is off limits. I don't think they realize that. It's about voter education. I am surprised it's this close. To be honest, I work in the oil and gas industry, and I think that ultimately it goes down, but I think what you're dealing with here is emotion versus facts, and that's really hard to bridge that when you're talking about ballot issues.
Marie, have the opponents of 112 overplayed their hand?
I think that what you're describing is that the social contract has been breached, according to the public, from the industry. I think that the industry, the House explosion and some of these other things that happened are fresh in people's minds. I think that the public health data that's being released regularly and the way it's being reported on in earned media means that they don't really have to make a case in the same way that you're describing. But I do think there are some serious questions to consider about the economic impact in Colorado. Ultimately, I think it will fail, but
What's your prediction?
I hope it goes down. I think it's a badly drafted proposal. I think it is aimed at hurting the oil and gas industry, and it's an emotional argument, not a rational one. The right way to regulate the industry is what Governor Hickenlooper's been doing for the last 8 years, which is go through the COGC process. There's lots of public input, and make those determinations based on science, not on emotion.
Are you surprised at how close it is?
No, given the emotion around the industry, I'm not surprised. I think fracking is a word that scares people, that we're not as educated as we should be on what fracking really means. And the oil and gas industry has played an important role in getting the state out of the Great Recession that we just experienced. So at the end of the day, devastating for rural communities as well, which is not good. I guess I'm not surprised that it's close because of the emotionalism.
All right. Well, I want to thank my panel, Dick, Michelle, Marie, and Alan, for joining me today. Remember to watch part 1 of this 2-part series. I'm Aaron Harber. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Please contact us. We want to hear from you. And thanks for watching.